Today we will cover the section on Ikigai of what the world needs. This is the specific deep dive that we will make into this section. At this point in time, it is important to define what is it that we actually mean by world needs. So need is, for example, a real problem. It could be a gap or pain point or struggle that somebody outside of yourself is facing or a challenge that they're facing. And this is in regards to some kind of an unsolved issue that is out there. The other thing that is important to understand in this is the word world. World, when we start looking at world in that context, we start thinking that, okay, it probably means that it refers to the whole world in the sense that we are trying to solve a global problem over here. That is not the case. It just simply refers to anybody outside of yourself. So it could be the entire planet, it could be your local neighborhood, or it could be an industry, or just even your family. So we are not out here to save the whole world. We're just here to serve someone in this world whom we can solve a problem for. So that is what the context of what the world needs, just so that the context is correct. But when we go into this context, there does arise a little bit of a challenge because the other part of it is pretty straightforward, but some of the paradoxical stuff is that what the world needs versus what the market is actually ready to pay. For example, there could be a challenge of the purchasing power gap. So the purchasing power gap is basically about, for example, there is a need for serving a homeless community, but there is nobody who is ready to pay for or even directly pay for resolving that problem. So you have to go about and go through some. We'll talk about how we can solve that, but that's for a later problem. The second one is, of course, the public good problem. So everybody needs it, but no one pays for it. Like, for example, if you go to a beach, it's pretty dirty. Everybody wants to utilize a good beach and have a clean beach, but nobody's ready to pay for it. So how does that come about? Who's the missing player in the equation and who's going to pay for that? The last one is the wise paradox. And this is what we could be very well blamed ourselves as well, because this is something that we end up doing. Market is normally paying pretty handsomely for things which are harmful or for the society in general, like for example, junk food, doom scrolling, for all you know. So if you go to on YouTube, you could just be scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and the algorithms are structured in such a way that they just keep you riveted to the screens, which is not feasible. And so even though, so there's no technical need in the world for that in that sense of the way, though the market pays pretty well for that as well. Anyway, these are some paradoxical things which I wanted to highlight, and then also want to talk about how you can monetize a situation like this for your own social good. For example, uh, for an environment cleaner, for example, if the beach is dirty or there's plastics, a way that that could be translated or monetized into a social good is that um, you could get funding from the government, or you could become a park ranger, or you could become a non-profit manager to utilize that. We may argue the returns may not be the most exceptional, but that's a separate story in itself. The other part could be there could be a crisis support. For example, somebody might be going through a divorce, or a child might need some help from school, bullying at school or something of that sort. So those are not things that which can be resolved in like 1 15-minute session or something of that sort. They have to be resolved over a period of time in which you need to be a licensed therapist or some kind of a grief coach. You have to go through a certain piece of training in order to get to that level and to be able to help somebody out. So you can that need can be monetized in that sense. If that is something which you can do well with some of the skills that you have and you are good at it and you love that, then that is your ikigai in that way. There could be a situation where uh, a need could be that there's a certain segment of the society and they're not able to interact, or they're not able to socialize with other people, or there's somebody at a senior level who is not able to find the right position for themselves for their next C-level position, for example. In that case, that monetization could happen by you becoming an executive recruiter and trying to link up that person with the right job opportunity in the right company, or you could help out that group of people that we talked about who are a little bit lonely and looking for hobbies or looking for like-minded people. You could connect them with other like-minded people or form a small and monetize that into some kind of a subscription model, which could become as part of a community manager role. So these are some of those things that are needed out there, and how they can be monetized. The last one, the last slide, I just want to summarize and kind of make a segue into our next topic that we will cover as the last session next time. We need to separate what the world needs and what you can be paid for. So just to kind of recap what I was saying earlier, what the world needs is that there is a problem that exists, and the market is willing to allocate resources towards solving that problem. It could be in the form of a government, it could be in the form of a private body, it could be in the form of a community, but there should be some allocation of resources associated with that to that problem that exists for solving that problem. Or if that does not exist, then you could mobilize your resources and mobilize the community or the government or a public sector or a private sector company to solve that problem. So that is also something that can be done. And what you can be paid for in the context of Ikigai has to be understood that this is from a personal perspective. So where can you capture value? Uh, for the problem that you're solving. So that is in a personal context, and what the world needs is in an external context. So the context have to be understood as well. The proper sequence to execute Ikigai is that first you start with what you love. So you can identify your internal energy. Second thing is that you identify what you're good at. Or if you're not good at it at that point in time, you will make a promise to yourself that, okay, I will get good at it. And the only way to get good at it is by trying what you love. The third one is that try to identify if the world needs the problem or something that you're going after, the external problem that you're going after, that there is market allocation, there's money allocation to that problem. If there's money that is not allocated to that to solving that problem, then there will be a difficult time that you will have in solving that, but it's not impossible, can be done. Anyway, we'll talk more about this Ikigai sequence, and there's certain other things which will wrap the whole topic as to if you have one thing absent, what it does it impact on any other thing. We will talk about in our last session. Thank you so much for watching today.